Let's see here. Truth about Capcom DRM.
Let's go!
What is this?
This has been a relative, like, huge topic that I've been getting pinged about like crazy over the past few days, and I talked about it a bit yesterday to sort of go over the overall reaction to it. And it's Capcom's absolute astronomical buffoonery coming to in regards to their new DRM. As most people are conceptualizing it as new DRM, that is retroactively affecting like a whole bunch of games.
Okay.
And yeah, on the surface level, yeah, people are saying it's malware, people are saying it's all this. I got told this by like Simmons.
To be fair, people say all DRM is malware. Like, I don't think that this was something that was unique about the Capcom DRM.
And I was like, oh, I heard about that. Like, what is it? And he started describing all this stuff.
As I said, I'm not educated enough about it to really have an opinion as to whether or not it is actually malware or not, but I'm just saying this is what people are saying.
That sounds really bad. And there's a couple of things in there that are weird, right?
Yeah.
Capcom going and banning or sending copyright strikes to somebody that had some mods on their YouTube channel.
That's crazy.
And I was like wondering where this all stemmed from, because as he was describing stuff to me, and I'm like, that's no different than what's been happening for like 5 years.
Right.
What I was being described to as was like, yeah, them actually going after somebody with mods on YouTube was definitely very weird. A ton of people still run mods, right? We're playing an entire version of Monster Hunter World that has mods.
Ooh.
And the game has no anti-systems built into it for that, much less people still run a ton of mods on Street Fighter and Marvel and a billion fighting games.
Yeah, sure.
I started to look into this where it's like, this is making huge news, right? This is like, oh man, like Capcom going back to their older games and retroactively sticking in shitball DRM, and it's like ruining the experience. It's like, okay, all right, yeah, that's pretty bad. And then you actually start looking into it. And I have a couple of stories for you guys.
Yeah, I'm actually really curious about this because, like, obviously Max plays a lot of Capcom games. Like, I've seen him playing, like, fucking fighting games. Obviously, he even had Mega Man in his intro here. So, like, if anybody's gonna know about this, he's gonna know about this for sure.
Thinks that this is stemming from, like, the Chun-Li mod. What I have is the actual news for you. What I do have to say is that I am the last person. Capcom's like my favorite company ever. I'm the last person that's a Capcom defender. I'm a notorious Street Fighter V hater the entire existence of the game, and constantly was at the behest of Capcom of like, you know, hopefully be positive about this game. No. I had problems. with MVCI. I had problems with Street Fighter Cross Tech, and we always made this shit painfully clear, and we always made videos about things that are like obviously stupid, like $15 turtle costumes and stuff. For the longest time in the mid-2000s, the Ultra Capcom hater was an Ultra Capcom hater, which is what I get for being a Capcom fan. So what I would like to tell you is that this massive DRM thing that seems to be happening right now, where they're literally injecting malware into your computer, banning you at the even sight of using mods, all this stuff, is complete horseshit. Capcom's just...
Really? All right. But, like, what about the people that got DMCA, though, right? I mean, because I don't know. Let's see. Yeah.
Operating the exact same way as they have for, like, 5+ years. Who are the people that could actually tell you this way better than I can? The people making mods. There's a couple of stories that came out from some people that are actually some of the most successful modders that have ever existed in the space.
Sure.
First one is Fluffy. If anybody doesn't know what the Fluffy mod manager is, I've been hearing that name since, like, I don't know, like 2015, 2016 or something.
So he's been around.
The Fluffy mod manager has been used for like a billion things, right? And constantly had to be updated, and constantly is going through the process of Capcom removing the mod and then re-adding it and all this goofy bullshit, right? So anyway, a couple things here. There's a bunch of news stories about Capcom recently patching in Enigma protection to ARIA Revelations and other games to prevent modding, with many people speculating this was done as revenge of the Street Fighter VI Naked Chun-Li thing. We already got a very good topic. Will make its way to the front page of...
So this is not true then? Huh. Okay.
Ton of news sites, right? News sites are gonna hear that and be like, damn, people gonna click on this shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Below. First of all,
he's right.
Context, the Street Fighter 6 tournament, yeah, we know about that. 2 months later, Capcom held an RE Engine conference, and they talk about their anti-theft, anti-piracy stuff. Yes, we just talked about that. It's disappointing to hear their overall stance on modding, right? Because before they've kind of been no harm, no foul, like kind of about it. But that video aligns pretty well with Capcom's actions in the past year, and they have occasionally sent DMCA takedown notices against nude mods and other videos for.
And also, like, before, because he skipped this, I just want to say, like, this is what Capcom said about mods. The majority of mods can have a positive effect on the game. However, some mods can be detrimental to the company. There are a number of mods that are offensive to public order and morals, and image of the product is tarnished, and brand is, I guess, brandish is affected. So this clearly seems to be like a extremely Japanese culture take. Because from everything that I've heard and read and observed from how Japanese companies view mods and view this kind of stuff, this is 100% Japanese company take. Absolutely.
Casing things like nude mods. They've added more layers of protection to their games overall, an attempt to make it harder to crack and cheat. From a modding standpoint, these protections are annoying to deal with, but they've never been major obstacles. From a cheating standpoint, I'm not sure what Capcom is doing. Their attempts to prevent cheating have been pretty lackluster. So fast forward to like a few days ago, news sites everywhere, Twitter's blowing up. Capcom is a piece of shit. Like, okay, let's look into it. So they patched RE Revelations some days ago, and the patch wasn't in a good state. It was bad. Capcom withdrew the patch. So they can address the issues. There was immediately problems. This person didn't try the patch themselves, but people reported worse frame rates and stuff like crashes. Another user noticed the game now has Enigma protection, which is another form of DRM. And people started putting 2 and 2 together, which resulted in a lot of folks assuming that the problems with the patch must be related to Enigma. So they added Enigma as a method to prevent all mods from working due to the Chun-Li scandal is where the interpretation is. They added Enigma, Chun-Li was naked, they're pissed, and they're coming after your mods, all right?
So this just ended up happening at about the same time, but they had even talked about this 2 months ago.
Actually go to the reality of the situation. Here's a bunch of reasons why the theory is bullshit. Capcom has been sticking Enigma into their games for fucking years, dude. RE5 got it last year, Street Fighter 6 beta had it a couple years ago, Ghost Trick has it, a bunch of other games have it. I have not seen people repeat worse performance issues in other games or major glitches as a result of Enigma. We don't have a reason to believe that Enigma was the cause of the performance crashes or the issues in general from the new Revelations patch. And
well, this is kind of like what the problem is that people don't like DRM so much that they will literally make things up to make DRM sound worse. Which, in my opinion, it's like whenever you start making stuff up, is like, bro, why you lying, right? Why you always, what are you doing? Like, what the fuck is this? And I'm not saying, like, and it's not about, like, I'm not making a statement on whether DRM is good or bad. I'm not saying this. I'm just simply saying that people will immediately assume that it's DRM, and then even whenever, because this person brings up an incredibly good point. He says DRM is present in all of these other games, and they don't have this problem. And then this patch comes out, and DRM was one part of the patch. It doesn't necessarily mean that DRM is the cause of these problems, right? You don't have, there's not enough data here in order to figure this out. And people probably, I guarantee you, will just say, oh no, that's not the case. That's not true, because they don't like DRM. And so it's more important for them to shit on DRM than to be right.
Revelations patch was taken down. Enigma only affects mods in really specific ways. It doesn't affect file mods, which are pretty much like almost all mods. It does not prevent memory from being poked at. Its primary obstacle with Enigma related to modding is that it's harder to attach a debugger. It prevents certain code changing mods from loading, but it's like there's a complete workaround. Technical details on how to get around it can be found here. From what I understand, like, so Enigma isn't like a new thing. And for anybody that is like kind of unaware, Capcom sticks like de novo on almost all of their big games. Anybody that's familiar with that, it has a significant performance hit. So yes, like whenever a new Capcom game comes out, there's
this was a concern with Hogwarts Legacy, and maybe it was another game as well. But yeah, de novo is like, or de novo or whatever the fuck. That's the DRM that I think people, if you know anything about DRM, that's the one that you know about.
Issues. Anybody remember Resident Evil Village? Tons of problems related to the DRM of that. They eventually fix it later on, but fans actually fix the DRM problems in that game. However, I have heard that the de novo license can be expensive, so they remove it later on and then actually reattach a different form of DRM, which could be Enigma, later down the line, and then that one is actually a cheaper licensing fee potentially. I don't know. That is the only reason why they would retroactively go back and add DRM back to games outside of them removing it before when the game isn't as popular. So moving forward, Capcom has shown anti-mod behavior in the past years, just in general.
Right.
For instance, with the various layers of protections added to RE Engine, I don't think it's specifically to target mods, but overall an attempt to combat piracy and cheating. This is nothing
And again,
new.
keep in mind, you know, Capcom, Japanese company, they just recently put a dude in jail for piracy. So, like, their perspective on piracy is, like, totally different than ours.
And the effects of this that have been had on modding are pretty small, and their actual attempts at blocking mods have been relatively tame. Capcom isn't anti-mod at all, really. They're relatively anti-piracy. Capcom is occasionally...
And that's what DRM is supposed to do. Like, my understanding of DRM as somebody who's, like, really not fully... Like, I'm not very well versed in this. DRM, the goal of it is to prevent piracy. I think that preventing modding is like a secondary effect that the developer doesn't really probably care about that much. Maybe it's to prevent hacking, but like to, you know, client side, you know, skin mods and stuff like that, I don't think they really care about it all that much. But yeah, DRM basically exists to lower the amount of piracy that you have to do. It does a poor job though? Well, I don't know.
Taken down mods with nudity in YouTube videos showcasing modded nudity. I know they've been doing this since at least 2019, so the Chun-Li scandal is not the first time that we've witnessed naked pixels in their video game chicks.
Sure.
That said, their attempt to combat these have been pretty sporadic. Somebody on YouTube got striked for using
mods. That's because they're sporadic because it is a cultural reaction. Like, these companies don't probably really care about this issue, but they also don't want to look bad in the eyes of the public. So, like, if this gets out and they start looking bad, they're going to have to do something about it. But I bet they probably don't really give a fuck about this that much anyway, right? They probably, like, let the fucking foreigners do whatever they want with the game. We don't really care.
Some shit. Well, I'd like to mention somebody else that also got striked for Capcom for something that maybe they didn't deserve, and it's me.
Ooh.
I almost got my entire YouTube channel removed just for talking about Street Fighter V.
Wow.
Because Capcom accidentally released Street Fighter V information early. They almost took down my YouTube channel and multi-striked my channel in 2014.
That's
Somebody
nuts.
in Japan could just be having a bad day, and they just, like, pull the trigger on your ass. And then eventually you have to, like, find somebody to plead your case to, and hopefully that might get reversed, and that's exactly...
Which, again, like, I don't really think that is, like... The problem there is not with Capcom, because Capcom doesn't take your channel down. YouTube takes your channel down. The problem there is the way that YouTube handles, like, reports, and YouTube handles reports that way because the law is this way. So, like, Capcom is doing this. It's stupid for Capcom to do this. They shouldn't be doing this. It's bad. But the reality is that Capcom isn't pulling the trigger here. YouTube is doing it because the government says they have to. It's very annoying.
Like what I did. So anyway, I'm not even like outside of the protected zone. People in Japan just have no idea. People don't know about this shit at all. There's an image that's been floating around showing Enigma triggering several different virus alerts on Virus Total. This scan doesn't seem to have been made with a Capcom game EXE with Enigma. He tried scanning 2 games themselves, and the results are pretty clean. I should note that there are false positives with specifically virustotal.com.
Of course.
And they're unfortunately common, and I wouldn't be surprised if Enigma helps to generate false positives as it packs executables and obfuscates code, sometimes can raise alarms with a virus scanner. And as a general pro tip, don't run EXEs from the internet unless you fully trust the source.
Wow,
De novo and stuff
I didn't
like
know
this
that.
Can usually proc weird antivirus stuff. And a lot of this was done with a specific antivirus that is kind of sensitive to this shit. Is Capcom...
Well, and also, like, again... Yeah, in a way, DRM does probably behave kind of like a virus if it's trying to run code and run things in the background without the user seeing it. Because that's what viruses do. So, of course.
Installing malware on your computer? No.
It's like, and it doesn't make it bad, right? I mean, like, that doesn't inherently make it bad.
apparently got rage baited by something you saw on Twitter. Some people are claiming that Enigma makes it impossible to run the game on Steam Deck, but there's no actually evidence of that. However, you can easily see evidence showing the opposite by searching of footage for games with Enigma running on Steam Deck, like RE5. My personal theory—
I heard somebody in chat typing this just a minute ago. So nobody has any evidence of it. Huh. You know, I actually think I'm going to buy a Steam Deck myself. Because I would love to just, like, if I could, I would love to just turn on my Steam Deck right now, boot up one of these games, and see what happens.
CapCom started to use Enigma as yet another layer to their games, most likely as an attempt to prevent piracy, and maybe they have a policy to add it to most of their games moving forward.
Yeah.
Again, Enigma might be cheaper than Denuvo. Denuvo is not cheap. So most of the time, Capcom's Denuvo games, they just lose it. They just drop it over time. And that game might get Enigma later on because it's cheaper. We got no reason to believe Enigma was behind the problems with Revelations patch. And vast majority of mods still completely work fine with the games that even have Enigma protection. If people want to be upset about actions that Capcom has done, be upset about this incident where they struck copyright against a couple of YouTube videos that were showing innocuous Monster Hunter Rise mods. And of course, yes, that is the #1 thing that is like, yeah, that sucks. If they were going after—
Yeah, I really wish that, like, I don't know if this is ever going to be solved. Because, like, I remember 10 years ago, this was a problem with, like, Melee. And it's still a problem because, like, Nintendo and these Japanese companies have a totally different, like, culture perspective on intellectual property than the US does. And in my opinion, I think that they're fucking wrong. I think that it's ridiculous. If you buy something, it should be your right to decide what you're going to do with it and what you're not going to do with it. So I don't have a problem with that. But either way, you know, I wish that there was a way that people had a bit more protection against this kind of stuff. Yeah, their laws are different too. Yeah, their laws definitely are different. But just because their laws are different doesn't mean that our laws have to accommodate theirs. Like, for example, like I don't live in Japan. I don't want to make any decisions or have any part of my life dictated to me by Japanese law. I don't live there. I don't want to listen to their rules. I don't want them telling me what to do, period. YouTube has to, so it doesn't. I don't know what YouTube has to or doesn't have to do. I'm not really sure. As I've said before, I think that the entire copyright industry is massively fucking outdated. And these problems that are happening, again, Capcom is a symptom of a disease. And the disease is the laws. Because the laws are why this happens. You think YouTube wants to take down these videos? Fuck no, they don't want to take down the videos. They don't want to do anything. They just want to ignore it and make money. So, like, YouTube doesn't want to do this. I think maybe Capcom might not necessarily want to do it. They feel like they have to because of the laws there. But it's the government that's really responsible for this. The government, they're the ones that can actually change it. Nobody else can change it. YouTube can't change it. Capcom can't change it.
All of them, holy shit.
Yeah,
like,
that was really stupid.
You clearly got the eye of somebody in Japan that you just pissed off on one day. That's messed up, and it's something Capcom should fix moving forward. And while it's disappointing to hear that RE Engine conference and Capcom's stance on mods is changing, they haven't done anything substantial to prevent them. And there's no indication of that changing. Some more information. I saw other modders note that Capcom will sometimes switch out Denuvo for— we just talked about this. They'll switch out Denuvo
it's probably
or
licensing.
Enigma for the other. For instance, the RE4 engine, RE4 demo had the Enigma protection, but the full version used Denuvo. Ghost Trick had Denuvo removed, and then Enigma added.
Yeah.
So it looks like Capcom is going to plan this of using Denuvo for what a game is new, and then eventually switch it out for Enigma. So straight from the horse's mouth, this is also, one of the most prominent modders in the scene. This news is not news that people are talking about now, because there were several—
That's good to know. I didn't know
that were talking about
it.
And now the majority of this story is being treated like it's complete misinformation in terms of like where the story originated from and how it was like sort of presented. And a lot of people are assuming, because of what they've recently said about their anti-cheat policies, that this is a direct result of it.
Yeah.
No, it seems like this was just like rage bait. Potentially where this was coming from, which was maybe even just a thread on Reddit or like a post on Steam or some shit, might just be rage bait. Like, let's just get everyone super mad about something and get some clicks.
Well, I think that like it's probably something that is a little bit true, but and this is the most powerful misinformation is the misinformation that isn't 100% misinformation. The most powerful misinformation is the misinformation that is 80% accurate and 20% a lie. Because, like, you can believe, obviously, because, like, you know, for example, the strikes, and then, like, the Chun-Li mod, and then Capcom saying they're against mods. So you put all these things together, and now it's like, well, yeah, of course it makes sense that this is true. It doesn't make it true, but you can see clearly why people believe it is.
So that they'll get more follows or viewers. Funny enough, this like makes its way to Polygon and shit.
Yeah.
Darkside getting hit by, you know, this shit on YouTube is genuinely fucked up. If we want to talk about some shit,
that's
them
stupid.
Getting copyright strikes for mods, even though it's not a lot of people, is genuinely bullshit. So that hopefully isn't, you know, the case.
Yeah.
I'm not specifically defending Capcom here. We're just looking at what's actually happening. I hope that this shit with Team Darkside and, you know, the couple of YouTube strikes regarding some mods, that should go away. That's
that sucks.
Bullshit. Obviously, their take on mods overall, their new vernacular when it comes to their approach to mods and anti-cheating, anti-piracy stuff is a little rough. But is there any actual direct effect so far from that? Zero.
It doesn't seem like it.
All the mod managers still work. All the RE engine shit still works. Everything.
And yeah, plus journalists report on everything instantly without checking sources now. Yeah, usually the source is that there was a Reddit user that said it was true. They're like, you know, okay, yeah, this is it. And like, this is just kind of like how media works. But yeah, it is stupid. And like, the thing is also, I want to keep in mind, I do this too. Like, there are times like I kind of push back a little bit on this, but like, I didn't really understand it that well. I think that I made a video about this. So, like, I'm also guilty of this, too, myself. And, like, that's why I like watching these videos and knowing them, because, like, I hate to be the kind of person that says shit that isn't true. Like, I don't really care if, like, I have a clickbait title. It's like, okay, whatever, who cares? But, like, if I am saying something in my own words where I'm wrong, then that does bother me. And so that's why I'm actually very thankful for this video, because I had no idea about this. You don't want to be a liar. Yeah, it's just that simple.
Literally, it still is operating exactly the same, except a news story about some crazy shit with Enigma just came out, even though Enigma's been around for years. Really don't want this to come across as me defending Capcom in any way, because, again, I'm one of the biggest goddamn Capcom whistleblowers. When they fuck up, I'm like, I'm pissed.
Yeah.
I am not happy about this shit. But this is much less dramatic than it seemed, right? This is much less dramatic than like a Nintendo coming after people for even talking about an old game or an old fan game, or, you know, people going after Smash Melee tournaments or any weird shit like that.
That was my
this is bad news, and I'm sure when this eventually
with
goes on YouTube, people are still going to be dedicated to being pissed off. I understand. However, I don't think it can't. I don't think it can't not change. For example, Capcom is getting much bigger than they ever have been. So ultimately, you know, the size of their company is growing. They're going to want to protect their intellectual properties.
Sure.
Their anti-piracy measures might actually increase significantly over time. But as of right now, shit's the exact same that it's been for like the last 5+ years. Dude.
Well, there it is. I'll link you guys the video. This is good to know. Yeah, I didn't know that at all. Let me go ahead and link it to you guys right now. And number 3, translation repeats without. Yeah, this is actually very interesting to know. And WMax, yeah, make sure to give it a like, give them a sub. This was great. And yeah, I mean, I think that really, is it going to change? I highly doubt that it's going to change, to be honest with you. I really don't think so. The reason why is because Nintendo is doing it. And they're both Japanese companies, and I think that they are both product of their culture and environment. So it would make sense that they would both have the same, you know, like philosophical outlook on intellectual property, because they do also have literal like laws there that are different than our laws. So yeah, I mean, I don't think that they're necessarily going to change it a whole lot, but I would definitely really like to see at least some degree of communication. Because it does, like, I mean, he's totally right about how the worst part about this is the fact that, like, for example, Team Darkside, I just learned about these guys recently because I started playing Monster Hunter, but Team Darkside, they do, like, a ton of Monster Hunter videos, and they were using modded versions of Monster Hunter, and they actually got a copyright strike on their account because of it. And I think that's ridiculous. Like, personally, I think that you should be able to... If you are making videos about a game, if you buy a video game, I think that you should have the autonomy to do pretty much whatever you want with it. I don't like the idea that whenever you buy a video game, you still have to follow a bunch of rules that the people who made the video game say you have to follow. I don't think that's fair, and I don't think that's really ethical. I really don't. I think that if you spend money on something, you should have the autonomy to do what you want with it. And, like, of course there are limitations, right? Like, for example, redistributing it. Or like hacking in the game or something like that, like actually hurting other players' experience or something like that. But in a very general sense, I'm very much against that kind of stuff. Oh, Primogen, the host, thank you very much for the 2,000 viewers. Thank you very much, man. Hey, how y'all doing? Hey. And that's fair. The rules are there before you buy it, so it's on you. That is fair. And this is an interesting question, right? Is entering into an unethical or unfair contract, does that make it fair? I don't think so. I don't necessarily think that it does. Now, it makes it not as bad. I would agree. Yeah, I think, yeah, maybe it's not as bad. And the person should have some degree of liability. But at the end of the day, I don't think that they should be able to exert that power over you. Because at the end of the day, it's not really Capcom that's exerting the power over you. Like, whenever they send a copyright strike, the reason why YouTube cares what Capcom thinks is because the government says they have to. If copyright wasn't against the law, then do you think YouTube would be sending people strikes? No. They wouldn't be doing anything. They would ignore it. They wouldn't even read the email. So the reason why these things happen are because of it's because of these laws. So I'll imagine not being able to modify your car. Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because Ferrari actually has a clause in a contract of buying a Ferrari that oftentimes says that exact thing. And then there are other examples that are similar to that as well. I don't know about Bugatti if they do the same thing, but I think even Andrew Tate talked a little bit about this. And wouldn't listen to him with a lot of stuff, but I feel like he probably wasn't lying about the car stuff. So yeah, Bentley too. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Some other companies do it too. Yeah. And so also with a diesel truck or with a Ferrari, I can understand telling somebody that they're not allowed to modify it, because if you're modifying a car, you are putting other people in danger because you're driving the car down a public road at potentially 150 miles an hour. So I actually think that is a very different paradigm than modding a video game. Like modding a video game to where you can see, a character's boobs is very different than modding a car in a way that could make it unsafe. Come on, I'll take. Wrong? I have no problem. Like, if you think that I'm wrong about this, then that's fine. But why am I wrong? Modding anything should be up to the owner of the property. Well, that's not... I mean, you don't really believe that, though, right? Because, for example, there are a lot of mods that you can put on your car that make your car unsafe. So... And I would assume that you don't really believe that somebody can do certain mods on cars that make the car unsafe, right? Okay, so I'll give you a couple examples. So one example of this is TVs in a car. So there are basically, you guys ever seen the old, the Houston slabs, right? Where they have 4 or 5 TVs that you can watch in the driver's seat. Is it a good thing that a person can watch a movie while they're driving a car? I think absolutely not. And so that is an example of a modification of a car that makes a car more unsafe. So that is something I would not allow somebody to do. I disagree. I should be able to mod my vehicle any way I want to, as long as I follow the laws of the road. Who cares? Well, okay, so then, but do you see kind of what the problem with this is, though? You say, I disagree. I should be able to mod my car any way I want, as long as I follow the laws of the road. So then you can't mod your vehicle any way that you want. Okay, so then you agree with me. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be able to change the color of your car. I'm saying that if you have a car, it would make more sense that you would have restrictions on a car than a video game. It is amazing that I had even a single person who thought that this was a wrong opinion. Are you fucking delusional to think that a car that you are driving that can literally fucking kill somebody should be at the same level of freedom as a fucking video game mod? I'm losing my mind here. What is this? It's not even debatable. Like, how the fuck are people even arguing this? Yeah. It's incredible, man. Can't have mods that cause distractions. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what I'm saying, right? Is there are rules. But either way, I think that, yeah, again, if you buy something, you should have the right to do basically whatever the fuck you want with it. There are some exceptions, as I said, like with modifications on cars, things like that, that you have a, you actually have like the ability to hurt other people with. But in terms of the video game, etc., this is absolutely not something that I think is important at all. I'll link you guys the video. This is a good one. Make sure to give it a like.